Up to the Mark by Not This Time. Up to the Mark started off his career breaking his maiden on dirt at Saratoga by over 4 lengths. Pretty much what you'd expect from a Not This Time colt with a strong dirt pedigree. But in 2023, when they switched him to the turf, everything clicked. He kicked off the season with back-to-back wins at Gulfstream, won the 2 Grade 1 turf races on Kentucky Derby and Belmont Stakes Day, won the Coolmore Turf Mile off a layoff, and ran a massive second in the Breeders' Cup Turf. He scored his first Grade 1 on Derby Day in the Turf Classic, winning by nearly 4 lengths with 103 Beyer. Came right back on Belmont Stakes Day to dominate the Manhattan with a 105 Beyer. That was the highest figure at 1.25 miles on turf that year. Later that year, he took on Europe's best in the Breeders' Cup Turf, just missing by 3/4 of a length to Auguste Rodin. That second place finish sealed an Eclipse Championship season and pushed his earnings past $2.5 million. Between that big turn of foot, surface versatility, and the proven talent of his sire line, there's a ton to like about Up to the Mark. And a new stallion at Lanes End, Up to the Mark, who I thought had an outstanding year. He had the hiccup in the summer that I think prevented us from being able to see him at Saratoga. What do you expect from him as a stallion based on what you got to know about him as a racehorse?
I think he has a huge chance to be a very successful stallion, and I think he can do it on multiple surfaces. He broke his maiden impressively on the dirt for us at Saratoga. Then he kind of plateaued a little bit. We obviously found a new career on the turf, but the thing that stands out to me about him is how good looking of a horse he was. And I remember seeing him for the first time in the Keeneland September sale. At that time, Not This Time, was a freshman stallion. He was so good looking. I think we paid $450,000 for him as a yearling, and I think if he passes on not only his talent but his good looks, he's got a huge chance.
David, I thought Up to the Mark was very unlucky to not be a Breeders' Cup champion. I thought he ran outstanding in the turf. A little hiccup in the middle of the summer. He was outstanding all of 2023, and now he stands at Lanes End. What do you think his future looks like?
He covered outstanding first book of mares. The breeders all saw the same things that we did, which were, he was a length or two short of beating Augustus Rodin, who's ended up being a very good horse also. So he got a lot of credit for his campaign, and people are wanting to get to him because Not This Time has had a meteoric rise. His sire, he's got to be a very expensive stud fee. He looks like a sire's in the making, and Up to the Mark's going to be his first top-level son to go to stud. And with his pedigree, his looks, he's got all the ingredients to make a sire himself.
Maggie, we were lucky enough to see Up to the Mark do a lot of damage in New York. He was a sensational horse. I really do wish in his final year we would have had a chance to see him that summer at Saratoga, but he came back at Keeneland, came back in the Breeders' Cup and ran extremely well. It was very close to being a Breeders' Cup champion. With this hotness of Not This Time, physically looking at a horse like Up to the Mark, do you think that he could have some success as a stallion?
Yes. Well, obviously, turf sires maybe aren't as sought after. But like you said, being a son of Not This Time, that throws a wealth of versatility into that bloodline. And Not This Times are kind of interesting horses in a way because he didn't look like his sire, Giant's Causeway. And I find that they tend to look a lot like Not This Time, but also they tend to do things that you wouldn't expect looking at them physically because they tend to be a little bit smaller, a little bit more shorter coupled. And while that can make them, horses that have a bit more longevity, be a little bit more sounder because they're not as heavy and hard on themselves, that also throws in that element of being able to run long on the turf, run long on the dirt. Things that Giant's Causeway, his sire, has shown that his progeny can do as well. So I think, Up to the Mark is just going to carry that on as well. Yeah, he might be more of a turf stallion, but at the end of the day, is that such a bad thing? Because look at the program that we built in America for these turf horses. In New York, we have that turf triple series for the fillies, for the colts. Just the wealth that can be found in turf racing now is not like it was 20, 30, 40 50 years ago. So I think turf stallions are becoming more attractive, more economical. So I'm excited to see what Up to the Mark can do, because as a physical, he's a really impressive horse that also didn't look overly turf meant.
Peter, obviously Not This Time has been a very hot stallion with the versatility and different surface winners. One of them being Up to the Mark, who, in my personal opinion, was extremely unlucky to not win that Breeders' Cup turf. I'm sure that you guys at Lanes End also felt the same way. But the thing about him that's interesting is that everyone loves the versatility of Not This Time. Well, part of that versatility is a horse like Up to the Mark, who broke his maiden on the dirt at Saratoga.
Yeah, so he broke his maiden going 6 furlongs on the dirt at Saratoga, but then showed his brilliance on the turf. He just had such an electric turn of foot. I don't think I've really seen from an American turf horse. That's typically a trait that you see with the Europeans. He was fantastic in that win streak that he had going there on the turf, and I agree with you. If it wasn't for Ryan Moore's ride, he probably would have won the Breeders' Cup turf as well. It was a great sporting offer for Mr. Rapoli to go to the Breeders' Cup turf, trying 1.5 miles for the first time against the best in the world. Was a very sporting gesture.
What are you expecting from what you've seen with some of the early mares that have come Up to the Mark? And are you feeling that, like you said, he's bred for the dirt, but he was sensational on the turf, and his sire has produced both? I mean, to me, this is screaming, we will get you any kind on any surface at any distance.
Yeah, and he was very popular in his first year. He bred a full book of mares, and he had a great variation of mares. So he got turf mares and he got dirt mares, because people saw that versatility in him. So I think that that going forward, that his progeny, we will see them running on both surfaces, just because of his versatility and the diversity of mares that he got.